decided they wanted to try and scale a fence. So they've all been popped inside for the moment, just whilst we check the fence line and make sure that there's nowhere that they actually can escape, because we don't want lemurs roaming about the centre of Dudley. So they are in here just for now. They look a little bit fed up, but it is for their own safety and to make sure that we are nice and secure. So I'm still going to feed them, but I'm going to put the food either at the top of here, if I can throw it there, or I'll feed some through into here for them. So you still get to see them have some food. Once I pop the food in, I will tell you a little bit more about our lemurs as well. But we do still have, I believe, the black and white lemurs and the coloured lemurs out and about around the walkthrough, which is worth having a look out for them as well. So I'll quickly sort the food, and then I'll have a chat with you about the lemurs as well. 2 seconds.
Be careful.
No. That's why there's a net here. Whoa. Whoa.
I'm coming.
Whoa. How was that supposed to go through?
Nora, kom her. Nog een lemurs. Như con quạt vậy.
Whoa. Look at them. It's so big. Oh, the arms. Whoa, what's going on?
Get down. Con đi ông này.
Whoa.
Alrighty, so the food I've just given them there, they had a mixture of a bit of pellet, some natural fruits that they find about. So we have some blackberries that we've harvested just here on site that are nice and natural for them. They've got some apple on those sticks, they've got some cucumber, they've got some celery, a nice mix of healthy fruit and veg, which is perfect for our lovely lemurs. So to start with my lemur talk, I generally ask if anyone knows where lemurs come from in the wild. Does anyone know where lemurs live? Yeah.
Jungle.
The jungle, it is the jungle in one specific place. Has anyone seen a film with King Julian the lemur in it? Yeah? Madagascar, perfect. So Madagascar is an island off the east coast of Africa, the southeast coast, and it is the 4th largest island in the world. So for a bit of context, the UK is the 7th largest island in the world, so it's much bigger than the UK. And Madagascar is a very special island because it broke off from the rest of Africa and the rest of the world about 85 million years ago, which is a very long time ago, and it means that all the animals that live on Madagascar evolved very separately to everything else. It means they've ended up looking a little bit different to everything else, and it's why it is the only place in the world that you will find lemurs. But on Madagascar there are so many different types of lemurs. There's about 110 different species of lemur, and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So people are usually most familiar with our ring-tailed lemurs that we have here, but you can get lemurs that are so small they can sit on the palm of your hand, little mouse lemurs. You can get lemurs that are so tall they come up to about the middle of my waist. The Indri lemur is the largest lemur, and they live in all sorts of different ways. So our lovely ring-tailed lemurs here are ground-based lemurs. They spend most of their time in the forest walking along on the floor, and so they are good at climbing. You can see they do a bit of climbing here, but we have some other lemurs in this walkthrough. We have black and white lemurs, and they specialise in living up on the trees, in the trees, so they are much better climbers than our ring-tailed lemurs. Now, what is a lemur? It's a species of primate, so they are somehow related to humans, although they're quite far distantly related to us. So where our orangutans are very closely related to us as apes, these guys are what we call persimmons. And persimmons are the most distant primate cousin of humans, and they have a lot of differences to human beings. So just looking at their faces look a bit more like a cat than they do a primate, another monkey. They've got these long, pointy, wet noses, which is one of their most obvious differences to all other monkeys that you see that have these short, dry noses like you do. Your nose shouldn't be wet on the end unless you've got a bit of a dribbly nose from a cold. They also don't have fully opposable thumbs, which is something that is really important for a lot of monkeys. They're using tools and doing all of the climbing that they do. So where you should be able to touch your thumb to every single one of your fingers like this, and it will make you very good at doing things like peeling bananas or texting these days. Our lemurs can't quite do that. So they do have a thumb, whereas things like dogs and cats don't have a thumb, but they can't touch it to all of their fingers like that. They can only grab in and grab out. So they can hold on to things and they can use it for climbing, but they can't quite use it to do things like peel their food, which is why we use enrichment like this, that is a bit harder for them to get it off. So it's just threaded through some bits of bamboo, and it means that they're having to use their brains and they're having to use the other things that they have to get that food off of it and to get the bits that they want. Now, because they can't peel their food, lemurs are slightly messy eaters, so it's probably for the best that they're eating in here out of the way of you guys. They tend to just shove all of the food in their mouth that they can fit and chew it up, and then they'll just spit out the bits that they don't really like, instead of peeling off the bits that they don't like that you'd maybe see our chimpanzees doing if you watch us feed them a little bit later on today at 3:30 if you want to join us for the chimp feed. Now, these lemurs are still amazing. They're still very, very intelligent. As I mentioned, they were being a little bit naughty earlier, and that is a good sign of intelligence with these guys. And they like to live in these big family groups, and that communication is another brilliant sign that these guys are pretty clever. But when living in a big group, you do need someone in charge, someone to make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So for our ring-tailed lemurs especially, this is always a dominant female lemur. So the girls are in charge for ring-tailed lemurs. Our dominant female is called Hobie. She's actually our youngest female lemur, and she's only recently risen to the top. She was a lockdown baby, so she's only a couple of years old. But she's the boss now, and she tells everyone, including her mum, what to do and make sure that especially the boys get the last picking. So some of the stuff that was scattered on the top, the girls will go straight up to it, they will get their pick, they will get to choose what they want. Whereas you'll see down on the floor, some of the boys are just having to pick up the scraps that are being dropped and spat out by the girls later. And it's generally how ring-tailed society works. And it's no different when they're looking maybe for a boyfriend or a girlfriend lemur to mate with. So the way this works for our ringtails, and it's one of the reasons they have these lovely long stripy tails, is they do something we call stink fighting. Now, the boys are easy to spot because they have really big scent glands on their wrists and on their chests. They look like little black blobs, and they will use those to rub up and down their lovely stripy tails, and they'll make their tail really, really smelly. They will then wave their smelly tail in the face of another male lemur, and they'll decide who they think is the stinkiest, and the stinkiest lemur is the winner of the stink fight, and they get to go on to then try and impress the female lemurs. So they will then use that same smelly tail, and they will, you can see one of them is scent marking just here, that's what they're doing, use that smelly tail, and they'll go and waft it in front of a female lemur to show off how smelly they are, and hopefully, if she likes it, then she will decide that he will be allowed to have babies with her. And so they reproduce, usually having 1 or 2 babies at a time for the ring-tailed lemurs, and they'll carry them on their chests until they're about 6 months old, when they're ready to go off and start walking about on the forest floor on their own. Now, if you're a little baby lemur walking around on the forest floor, you want to be careful not to make too much noise, because there are animals like fossa in Madagascar, which are like giant mongoose that specialise in hunting lemurs. And so if you're really noisy, they will find you very quickly and they will come and eat you. But you also don't want to get split up from your lovely family group. So it's another reason that our ringtails have these lovely long stripy tails. When they're walking around on the floor, you'll see they stick their tails right up in the air, and then even in the long grass in Madagascar, all of the lemurs can see where everyone in the group is nice and easily, without shouting, without making loads of noise at each other. So our ringtails generally are fairly quiet. They are the almost exact opposite then of our black and white rough lemurs. If you have heard throughout the day what sounds like a group of people screaming at each other, it's probably our black and white rough lemurs. They're the second loudest primate in the world, and as I said, they specialise in living up in the treetops. So they don't need to be quite as worried as the ring-tailed lemurs of making too much noise, because they're a lot safer up in the trees. So they live slightly differently. They are very, very noisy. They do a lot of territorial calls just to make sure that everyone knows this is where they live and no one's going to come and take their turf, essentially. And ours are particularly noisy because we have two groups of black and white lemurs that live at the zoo. So we've got 3 boys who live in our walk crew. Their names are Yoda, Zeb and Eli. And then we've also got a family group of black and whites that live behind the Discovery Centre down near our monkey houses. So they will hear the black and white lemurs in Lemur Wood, all territorial calling and say this is where we live, and then they territorial call to say, oh that's okay, this is where we live over here, and then they shout back and forth to each other, which is really nice natural behaviour for them actually. It's really good for them to have those interactions with the separate groups of lemurs that we have here. Now, black and white rough lemurs are really important in Madagascar because they are also the world's largest pollinator. So they eat a lot more fruit, a lot more nectar out of flowers, and so quite often, especially in springtime when all the flowers have a lot of pollen on them, you will see our black and white lemurs with lots of yellow pollen all over their faces, which looks ridiculous, but that means that they're helping to pollinate all of the plants in the forests in Madagascar. So if we lose animals like these lemurs from this really unique habitat, then the habitat itself will stop to exist. Now this is especially important talking about our lemurs because a lot of them are endangered. The black and white rough lemurs are critically endangered, so they're just one step away from extinction in the wild. But about 80% of lemurs in the wild are classed as either endangered or critically endangered, which means they do need our help to try and help survive out in Madagascar. Now you guys are doing a fabulous job just by coming to the zoo today, because paying your entry fee, paying a membership is helping us support a wonderful charity called the AEECL, which is officially a French charity. They speak French in Madagascar a lot of the time, so they have good links with lemurs out in Madagascar, and they do all sorts of scientific work researching lemurs, making sure that they know the best way to support them in the wild, but also doing a lot of community work with the people that actually live in Madagascar and helping them to live alongside the lemurs whilst living happy and fruitful lives, because one of the biggest threats to these guys in Madagascar is the farming trade. So out of interest, hands up if you like eating chocolate. Lots of people, I like chocolate. Hands up if you like vanilla ice cream. Lots of people. Maybe more adults, but hands up if you like a cup of tea or coffee in the morning. Yeah. So all of these things are things that are grown in Madagascar and exported to places like the UK for us to eat. So it's all very well and good us saying maybe they should just stop all of the farming, because quite often the farming causes deforestation, it causes lack of habitat for these lemurs, and it also causes poaching for these lemurs because the lemurs enjoy eating coffee cherries, they like going and stealing the cacao pods, and they are clever, they are naughty, so they will do that, and the lemurs and the farmers will hunt them because they see them as pests. And so it's working on this relationship with the farmers and with the lemurs, who used to be really revered in Madagascan history. They were known as the ghosts of the forest, people respected them, people cherished them, and that culture has changed slightly. So the AECL does a lot of work going into community groups and working with them on strengthening their bonds with the lemurs and their understanding of how important they are. So we're really grateful for you guys being here today and helping us support these charities that look after these lemurs in the wild. If you do want to do a tiny bit more at home, if you're thinking how can I be a bit more sustainable in my day-to-day life, just looking for things like the Rainforest Alliance logo on those products, things like chocolate, vanilla, coffee, helps make sure that you're not supporting any companies that are chopping down parts of the rainforest to grow their products. It's just a little green frog on the packaging. You will see it really nice and easily on loads of products these days, and it means that you are supporting sustainable farming rather than farming that's causing deforestation. Now I am going to wrap the talk up there. If anyone has any questions, I will stick about for a little bit after the talk. If not, the next talk today is at 1 o'clock. It will be an orangutan talk and feed. If anyone wants to join us for that, you can come up to our orangutans, have some food. If not, then thank you so much for listening, guys. Sorry it's a bit of a weird place for a talk today, but I hope you've enjoyed yourself and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day here at WC. Thank you. You want to pop down this end and I'll stay down here, and if anyone has any questions, I'll come check.
was about 15 minutes, 14 minutes walk.
You like that, didn't you?
Very good.
I don't know, I don't going to look like that.
Come on then.
The lemurs are going to be like the tigers.
Huh? The tigers? I like them here. Can we see tigers? Are there tigers here? Right, let's go see them then. I want to go pet it. Deep water. Ooh, deep water. What? What? Tar.
Car, brum brum car, brum brum.
Car.
Yeah.
Oh, can I go in my mum's car? You going?
Dragon.